All right, so today we're going to continue our talk about slopes. Today we're going to talk about a zero slope and an undefined slope. Yesterday, or the last video that you watched, we talked about a positive slope and a negative slope, and how we found those slopes. One was by using a slope triangle, and the other way was by using the slope formula. So I have my slope formula up here, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I have two coordinate planes. We're going to use the same ways and determine and see what a zero slope looks like and an undefined slope looks like. So I dropped my pen, so let me pick it up. All right, so if you are given two sets of coordinates, and the coordinates are 3, 2, and 1, 2, and you're asked to find the slope, what I would do probably is throw it into the slope formula. So here's my formula, m equals, and I need to, again, look back at my y's and go, which one do I want to pick? 2 minus 2. Well, I noticed that that's 0, okay? So it doesn't really matter which one. So let's look at the x's. 3 minus 1 or 1 minus 3. So I'm going to go 3 minus 1. I'm going to make that my second point and make that my first point. And I am going to do my y minus y would be 2 minus 2. And then my x minus x would be 3 minus 1. And then my solution, or the slope, would be 0 over 2. And as soon as I get a 0 over 2, what I'm going to request that you guys do is that you let me know that it's a zero slope by just writing the word 0 next to the slope in your answer. Okay? Now let's go down here to our graph. And let's see what a zero slope line looks like. So if I plot the point 3, 2, I'm going to go up 3 on my x-axis, positive 2 on my y-axis. I'm going to label that point. Make sure it's in parentheses. It is a point. And then I'm going to go to the line 1, 2. And I'll make that point there. Again, label it. And now I'm going to connect the dots. Connecting the dots is going to show me that I've got a horizontal line going straight across, okay? So this is what a zero slope line looks like. And if you remember the words of our slope, it's rise over run. So 0 tells me that we rise 0, and we run 2. And we continue to go sideways, but never go up or down. So a zero slope line is a flat line that looks like that. And it's going to have a 0 in the numerator of the fraction. So let's pause for a second, or let's move on to our undefined slope. And again, I'm going to take 2 points. The first point that I'm going to say is -1, -1. And the second point that I'm going to say is -1, 3. So I have 2 points, and if they ask me to find the slope of these 2 points, again, every single time, I'm going to throw it in the slope formula. So my slope formula is y2 minus y1. So is it going to be 3 minus a -1 or -1 minus 3? I'm going to do 3 minus a -1. So I'm going to make that my second point. This is my first point. So my y2 is 3 minus, and then I have a -1 for my y1 over a -1 minus another -1. x2 minus x1. Okay? And as we do our subtraction problem, we're going to see that m is equal to, when you have two negatives, that turns into a positive. So 3 plus 1 would be 4 over -1 minus a -1. Two negatives again turn into a positive. -1 plus 1 would be 0. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this and let's graph it, and then we'll talk about the differences. So, if I have the point -1, -1, it's going to be down here in quadrant 3. I'm going to label that. And if I have the point -1, positive 3, it's going to be up here in quadrant 2. And then I'm going to connect the dots, and I have a vertical line. Okay? So we have a vertical line, which means our rise is going up and down, and our run is we're not going right or left at all. Okay? So let's look at the zero slope and the undefined slope real quick. One thing that I see is they both have a 0 in. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. As I told you that I want you to label this a 0 slope, I want you to look at this one and tell me that it is undefined. And instead of writing out the whole word undefined, if you don't want to do that, here's the symbol, a 0 with a slash through it. Okay? I always like writing symbols or abbreviations for things. So you either spell the word out or you use this symbol for undefined. Okay? Now, so let's go back to the similarities. They both have a 0 in the slope. One is in the denominator, one is in the numerator. Oftentimes people get confused. They remember that if a 0 is in the slope, that it's either 0 or undefined. But they forget and they get confused. I had a student a couple years ago who came up with a great idea. And she learned how to do undefined because look where the 0 is in this fraction. Okay? The 0 is under the other number. And she took and said, you know what? If it's undefined, if the 0 is under the other number, and saw the similarities between the two words. So whenever you have a 0 in the denominator, that's when it's going to be an undefined slope. When you have a 0 in the numerator, or in the top, it's going to be a 0 slope. Because you have 0 pieces, maybe 0 pieces of pizza. There were 2, now there are 0. So that's how we remember that one. Okay? 0 line, horizontal, vertical line for our undefined slopes. I hope this helps. Again, watch it 5, 6, 7 times. Engage when you're watching it. Try and repeat what I'm saying after you've watched it 3 or 4 times, and I guarantee you'll learn it quicker. Have a great time. Have a great day. Hope this helped. If you have any questions, ask your teacher. Take care.